The New York Jets are now on the board.
Okay, Jet fans, Darrell Revis.
Being in New York has been one of the greatest blessings.
Zach's Fifth Avenue ran that one right now.
The New York Jets select.
Welcome to another episode of NFL Draft Preview. The draft is here. Ethan Greenberg, Dane Brugler, the draft Thursday night. We're coming in hot. We got a 7-round mock draft right now. The Jets' last pick is in round 5. But we're going to talk about all of them. We're going to give a little preview. But first, I got to know, Dane, this week for you, like, what are the days leading up to the draft for you? Because for someone like me, a little calm before the storm. Then Thursday, Friday, Saturday comes around, pedal to the metal. I assume that's not the case for you, though.
Yeah, it's crazy. First and foremost, just trying to preserve my voice a little bit so I don't lose it before draft weekend. But I think there's a lot of noise this week, and a lot of it is just late info that makes sense but isn't going to happen. A lot of it is spin. A lot of it is just rumors, and so it makes it tough to try to weed through everything and figure out fact from fiction. Every year this happens, and it can be tough to just figure out what makes sense, and it's not always what makes sense, because sometimes what makes sense to me or you maybe is not what makes sense to one of these teams and what's actually going to happen. And it doesn't help that this is the most unpredictable draft we've had in a long time. And a big part of that is because we're missing those tent poles, those quarterbacks. Last year, we knew quarterbacks are going 1, 2, 3. So it was a little bit easier to forecast, 4, 5, 6, and so on. This year, good chance we don't have any quarterbacks until maybe the 20th pick. And so there's no real feel for where those quarterbacks are going to start coming off the board. And so that makes it even tougher to figure out, how's that top 10 going to play out? Even the top 3. I don't know that the Jets have a great feel for who's going to be left on the board when they pick at 4. So it makes it really interesting.
And we're going to talk about just some general draft questions after the 7-round mock draft. Let's dive right into it. All right. Pick number 4. You're throwing a curveball at us because you published a 7-round mock draft for The Athletic. You had Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon as your 4th overall pick. Now the 4th overall pick in this mock draft is Ike Ekwonu out of NC State. Why did you go with Ike? Why the change? And what do you think that he adds to an already crowded Jets offensive line room?
Yeah, I'm not thinking Kayvon Thibodeau at 4. I'm not sure it's going to happen. And I think they'd love to get a pass rusher, but is Jermaine Johnson is 4 too early for him? I think that's the question. And if it is, then we're looking at offensive line, because I don't think they go corner. And if they don't go corner and they don't go Kayvon Thibodeau, then we're really looking at offensive line or Jermaine Johnson. And I opted for the offensive lineman here. And, Mekhi Becton is a little bit of a wild card right now. Is he in the long-term plans? What's his outlook for this upcoming season? I think there's a lot of unknown there, and there's a lot of speculation, we just have to wait and see how it plays out. But with Ike Ekwonu sitting there from NC State, a guy that can be your tackle, has a ton of potential, long-term, has a lot of things going for him that you feel like as he gets more reps, as the technique and the awareness develop, he's only going to get better and better and better. So Ike Ekwonu, that's my pick right now at number 4. I mean, ask me in 10 minutes, maybe that'll change. But, I think for right now, let's go with Ike Ekwonu to the Jets at number 4. I think that there's so many different directions they could go here. And offensive tackle, it's definitely one of those directions that's on the board for them.
All right, there's a lot to unpack here. My first question is about Ike as a player. You view him as a tackle, right? Because he does have tackle guard versatility. So you think for the Jets at 4, he would play tackle?
No question. I think the Jets love their guard situation. With AVT and Tomlinson, I think they really feel like they have 2 of the best guards in the NFL, tandem. And so now at tackle, they really like George Fant. And it's just a matter of, do they see Ekwonu as a clear upgrade at tackle over the Mekhi Becton situation? And that's an unknown right now, And so if they have a chance to go get Ekwonu, I think that's in play. He's a guy that played some guard, but mostly played tackle at NC State. And he, first and foremost, just a devastating run blocker. That's what he does. That's his bread and butter. Explosive at contact. The play violence is outstanding. One of the best finishers I've ever scouted on the offensive line. And then hit the strides that he has made in pass protection. And he's still a work in progress there a little bit. He'll tend to overset quite a bit. But I think the strides that he has made, the improvements just in the last calendar year, it gives me great optimism that he's going to continue to get better and better and better as a pass blocker. So Ike Ekwonu, I think that he's going to be well liked in that building, and could be it's going to be on a short list, I think, of the players they discuss at number 4 if he's still there. You never know; he could be off the board in the first 3 picks. I know the Jaguars like Ike quite a bit. The Texans are looking at him as well. So no guarantee he's going to be there. But if he is there, he's at least part of that conversation for Joe Douglas, Coach Saleh, and the Jets brain trust as they make their decision.
All right, my second question revolving pick number 4 is you've been banging the drum of no cornerback at 4, so you believe, for the Jets. And I'm just curious your reasoning behind it, because the Jets, they could use an upgrade at cornerback. They upgraded with DJ Reed. They have Bryce Hall and Brandon Echols. That room would look totally different where it ended last year if they added someone like Sauce Gardner at number 4. But Joe Douglas hasn't selected a cornerback before round 5 as general manager of the New York Jets. That's Bryce Hall and Michael Carter II. Actually, I looked it up. Since 2015, Joe Douglas has been a part of the Bears, the Eagles, and now the Jets. The earliest selected corner was Sidney Jones in round 2 for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, is that the reasoning purely behind why you think corner will not be a New York Jet position at 4?
That's part of it. The other part is the coaching staff. Coach Saleh coming from that system where they play a ton of zone, and I don't think they feel like they need to invest a top 5 pick at the position, even though corner clearly a premium position in today's NFL. With the scheme that they have and where Coach Saleh comes from, how they've invested in corner in the past, I just don't think they feel like they need to use that high of a pick, that type of price tag on the position. And who knows? Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe they'll surprise us and take a corner there. But just based on their history, I don't think that they view corner as being a position they have to draft that early. They can wait till the second round and feel really good about the guy they're going to get there and focus on pass rush, because that is Coach Saleh, where he's come from. That's what he wants. He wants pass rush. It all starts up front for that coaching staff. And I think Joe Douglas, Coach Saleh, I think they're aligned in that thinking.
All right, so that brings us to pick number 10, where you said Jermaine Johnson could be in the consideration at 4, maybe a little early. He is your pick at number 10 in this mock draft for the green and white. If you're Joe Douglas, are you holding your breath that Jermaine Johnson even is there at 10, or do you feel pretty confident that he'll be available?
Yeah, I think that you're feeling good about your options, because even if Jermaine Johnson isn't there, I think they feel pretty good about one of the receivers that would be there. So I think they prefer to go pass rush. Again, it all starts up front for that scheme. They want to get more disruption. I think they'd still feel good about a Garrett Wilson or a Jameson Williams, or whoever ends up being whichever receiver ends up being there at 10. So you look at how the top 10, the top 9, Atlanta at 8, Seattle at 9. 2 possible landing spots for Jermaine Johnson. Jermaine Johnson's a good player, and it would not shock me if he went 4. I think that's at least there's at least a chance that could happen. So I don't know that he'll be there at 10, but there's a decent chance he will be, and I think that might be the ideal scenario for the Jets. Pass rusher at 4, still get a guy that you really, really like at number 10, and I think the Jets are in good shape addressing both the offensive and defensive lines with those 2 top 10 picks.
Obviously, this draft is more unpredictable, it feels like, than years past because of no clear-cut blue chip talent, no clear-cut quarterback at the top of the list. So if you're the Jets, or if you're a Jets fan and you're looking at the top 10 and you're crossing your fingers Jermaine Johnson is there, like who are other teams, or what are other teams that you're like, if he would just get past this team, because I could see that team going to Jermaine Johnson, then he's got a really good chance at going or being available at number 10 for the Jets?
7, 8, 9, I think. The Giants, the Falcons, the Seahawks. I think all 3 of those teams could use a pass rusher. There's a good chance we see Kayvon Thibodeau go to one of those 3 teams. And I think there's Every team I've talked to in terms of, because I think people need to realize that NFL teams do mock drafts as well. It's not just those of us on the outside. People like to mock the mock drafts. Teams do mock drafts because they want to try and forecast, okay, if we think this team's doing this team's doing that, okay, this is who will be available for us. So teams that are picking in the teens, they're doing a mock draft of the first 12 picks. Talking to those teams, they have no idea. They say it's so unpredictable. They say be prepared for a shocking pick. It's going to happen. And so I think that chaos is ready. And it's just a matter of where does that chaos start? Is it somewhere top 10? Do we wait to the teens? So there's a lot of intrigue with how it's all going to play out, because I don't think it's going to happen the way that a lot of us think it might. And NFL teams are preparing for that.
All right, so the Jets, pick 4 and pick 10. Ike Ekwonu, Jermaine Johnson. They have 35 and 38. Pick number 35, you're going wide receiver. Wide receiver on the board, Jahan Dotson. Maybe not the biggest guy, although you love his catch radius. And are you nervous at all about the size in the Jets wide receiver room with Corey Davis coming back, the biggest of the bunch? Then you have Elijah Moore. Then you have Braxton Berrios. You add Jahan Dotson. What does he add to the group? And what do you think about the height discrepancy between those three guys and Corey Davis?
Yeah, it's certainly fair to talk about the height. It's not there, but I will say that I think that Jahan Dotson has probably the largest catch radius of any sub 5'11" receiver I've scouted. Maybe the best ball skills too. I mean, it's really fascinating to watch him. The tracking skills, that my ball mentality, that I'm going to go up there and get it. And he's an outstanding athlete. 4.43 speed. I mean, if you leave him in one-on-one coverage, he can set up those moves and create that separation, give the quarterback space. So, if you feel comfortable that, he can get off press, he's not going to get out physical by physical DBs that he's going to see in the NFL, then you're going to love Jahan Dotson and what he offers. Now, there's a chance he's off the board in the first round, but there's also a chance he might slip to the second round, just like Elijah Moore did last year, and could be right into the laps of the Jets, who are picking pretty earlier in the second. So Jahan Dotson, definitely one to watch there.
Who are other receivers in that mold that could go round 1, could go round 2, and it wouldn't surprise you either way? I know you mentioned Elijah Moore was in that mold. Like another guy that comes to mind from last year, Rashad Bateman, feels like he was in that mold. He ended up going in round 1. So if Jahan Dotson is one of those guys, who are the others?
From this draft or past drafts?
From this draft, like, is it George Pickens? Like, is it that?
Right.
Like, who are some of the guys that are in that Jahan Dotson could be first round, could be at the top of the second?
Yeah, I think Sky Moore from Western Michigan's also in that group, that tier. Just my opinion, I think the top tier is Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams, Drake London. Those are the top 3. And then that second tier is a crowded group. That's where I think you have Treylon Burks, Jahan Dotson, George Pickens is in there, Sky Moore's in there, Christian Watson from North Dakota State is in there. And so I think that with that group, you're trying to figure out, okay, because every team's going to look at these guys a little bit differently. Some are going to bank on the traits that Christian Watson offers, while others are going to look at, okay, with George Pickens, that competitiveness, that he's got true X traits. He can be a wide receiver 1 for us down the road. They're going to look at Pickens, but some will look at Sky Moore and say, okay, well, he fits exactly what we need as that underneath player, has speed, has yak potential. So each one of these receivers brings something a little bit different, and each team is looking for something a little bit different at receiver, and that'll dictate who ends up going first round, who slips to the second, and who knows. There's a good chance we could see as many as 7 receivers in the first round. That's only happened once before in NFL draft history. That was 2004. That was the Larry Fitzgerald draft. So 7 receivers are possible in the first round. If we see 6, okay, who falls? Who's that guy? Is it Dotson? Is it Pickens? Is it Watson? So a lot of intrigue with these receivers. How many go first round? How many are still left for those teams in the early second still looking for a pass catcher?
And then the Jets have pick 38. Somebody that we really haven't talked about, Kyler Gordon out of Washington, the teammate of Trent McDuffie, a projected first-round pick. What's been the pre-draft arc with Kyler Gordon? Felt like everybody was extremely excited to see how he would test. Didn't meet expectations, it feels like. And what kind of player is he? And do you think that he's a good fit for what the Jets offer from a schematic standpoint?
Yeah, and I think with Kyler Gordon, he's average size, just under 6 foot, 195 pounds. Ran a 4.52 at the combine, which a little it was a little bit of a letdown based on the hype that he kept hearing. And but he goes to the pro day, stands on that 4.52, did not run the 40 again, but the vertical 39.5, short shuttle under 4 seconds, 3 cone 6.67, which is just unbelievable. I don't care what position. If you're under 6'7", that's a pretty remarkable time. And he also put up 20 on the bench. So this is a guy that has physicality. He's not a guy that's not afraid to play with a little bit of power, a little bit of strength to his game. So Kyler Gordon, I think, is coming from that Washington scheme where they played a lot of zone. They played inside outside. They asked their corners to do a lot of things, and so Kyler Gordon, maybe not as advanced as Trent McDuffie, his Washington teammate, who likely goes somewhere top 20. I think there's still some areas of his game that he needs to mature, but the fluidity that he plays with, the toughness that he plays with, I think that's something that will appeal to the Jets and how he would fit their scheme.
All right, so the Jets address corner in round 2 as opposed to pick number 4, like we talked about earlier. Moving on to pick 69 in the 3rd round, you have the Jets addressing the offensive side of the ball, more interior, Luke Gedeke. So what do you think? Also a Central Michigan guy, teammate of Bernard Raymond, played with the Jets on the Senior Bowl, but didn't really play in Mobile, right? He was out of the lineup, and what do you think he offers as a pro?
Yeah, and I mean, you just had to look at Luke after because it was like the first practice, and he had to go to the locker room, and he was in tears because he was so excited to show what he could do at the Senior Bowl, and unfortunately, because of that hamstring injury, wasn't able to go, and he wasn't able to go at the combine, wasn't able to go at the pro day. They actually had to have a separate workout that a lot of teams were represented at, including the Jets, to see him work out, and I was told he had a really good workout that day. So. A fascinating backstory. Started, kind of enrolled at a Division III school, and kind of just walked under the football team after high school. Bet on himself, transferred up to Central Michigan, and he moved from tight end to offensive tackle. Started at right tackle in 2019. Then he missed all of 2020 with an injury. Returned in 2021, back at right tackle, and really put himself on the NFL map. Because he's not the longest player. A lot of teams, I think they want to move him inside guard or center, but I think he gives you that position versatility where you think he could play center, you think he could play guard. And so for a guy like Luke Gedeke, he's maybe your long-term center. He's a guy that's going to help you at guard, giving you that depth. And then in a pinch, he could kick out the tackle and give you some reps there. So that position flex is a big part of why I think Luke Gedeke is going to be a day 2 pick, possibly the Jets there in the 3rd round.
For Gedeke year 1, are you hoping that he's like just a versatile backup offensive lineman? If somebody gets nicked up here or there, that's where he finds the field. And then hopefully in year 2, he projects as a potential starter.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think he's a utility man. He's the 6th offensive lineman, first guy off the bench there. And it can do a lot of things for you. We know how much Joe Douglas wants to build on the offensive line. And they've done a great job of that up to this point, and they're not done. And obviously, and that shows in this draft, this mock draft, I should say, with Icky at 4, and then coming back here with an interior offensive lineman in the 3rd round, a guy that gives you starting potential on the interior, center or guard, but gives you that depth, most importantly, where he can fill in wherever's needed if there is someone that goes down with an injury.
All right, so let's move on here. Kirby Joseph, safety out of Illinois. The Jets gave a bit of a facelift to that safety group. You add Jordan Whitehead, you bring back LaMarcus Joyner. They have high hopes for Jason Pinnock moving from corner to safety, as he did in his first season as a New York Jet. Started a couple games, but what does Kirby Joseph add to that room, and what is he like as a prospect?
Range, speed. He was a 1-year starter at Illinois, kind of a little bit off the radar, and he was able to get on the field as a senior this past year, and he just continued making plays. 5 interceptions, a really long player, over 33-inch arms, and that shows. I mean, they played him deep, they trusted him to be that last line of defense and use that speed, that range, so he can make plays at either sideline. He can run the alley, make plays as a tackler. So you look at the play speed, you look at the ball skills. There's a lot to like about Kirby Joseph as an ascending player. Want to see him get a little bit stronger, but he's a guy that's going to help you on special teams. He's a guy that's going to compete for starting reps. I really do like him for the Jets scheme and what they'd like to do on defense, especially in that back half.
Is that mostly because of his speed or because of the range or both?
Both, and the reaction quickness that he plays with, I think, really fits what they ask of their safeties. And I talking to Kirby, he credits his volleyball background for his reaction quickness. He's a big volleyball player in high school, which a lot of times we talk about wrestlers with football players, former wrestlers, or former basketball players, or a lot of track guys. Kirby Joseph was a volleyball player, and so he credits that sport as really helping develop those reflexes, the reaction quickness, and I think that's something that the Jets really prioritize and what they're looking for at safety.
All right, so the Jets add back in the back end of the secondary with their second pick of the 4th round, 6 picks after 111. You have them going back to the offense with a tight end. And the Jets added a pair of tight ends in free agency. In this scenario, they wait until round 4. They add Charlie Kolar. All right, so with Charlie Kolar, what does he add that maybe the Jets don't have right now and with CJ Uzomah and Tyler Conklin? Or is this just simply a depth piece, and in case somebody gets hurt, he steps in and the drop-off is seamless?
Yeah, I think he's more of a depth piece. He's a guy that's not really going to threaten defenses vertically, even though he did run a 4.62 in the 40-yard dash at the pro day. You don't see him as a seam stretching type of tight end, but he's really good in contested situations. He's a guy that plays through contact. Crowded catch points really don't faze him all that much. So a guy that can help you in the red zone, needs to get a little bit better as a blocker. But this is a high floor player, just the type of guy you want in your depth chart. Really, really smart. Won the academic Heisman this past year. So just, you know what you're getting from an intelligence perspective. Tough, smart, competitive. The type of guy that I think this coaching staff and Joe Douglas would really like at the position.
So what's your argument if you're talking to a Jets fan, they're like, why are you taking Charlie Kolar? The Jets added CJ Uzomah. They added Tyler Conklin. They have Trayvon Wesco, Kenny Yeboah. The tight end room is obviously more crowded now than it will be at the time the regular season starts. But what is your argument for taking what may seem like a luxury pick to some?
Well, I mean, part of it is Charlie Kolar is a 3rd or 4th round pick. And if he's still available at that 2nd, 4th rounder for the Jets, the value I think is outstanding. So part of it is the value. The second part of it is, looking at tight end. Obviously, they wanted to upgrade that position, and they clearly did in free agency with the 2 ads that they made. And there's a chance they might not be done. I mean, there's a chance that they could look at a guy on day 3 that they fill out the rest of that room. Give them someone that can step up in case there is an injury. Give them a long-term answer at the position. Charlie Kolar could be one of those guys that they're looking at in the 4th, 5th round range. All
right, so the Jets have 2 5th-round picks as well. Let's start with the first one, pick 146, defensive tackle. All right, the Jets lose Foley Fatukasi in free agency, now a member of the Jacksonville Jaguars. You have the Jets adding Eric Johnson out of Missouri State to plug the middle of that defense. What is he like as a prospect, and what do you expect realistically from someone who's drafted in the 5th round in year 1?
Yeah, this is my highest graded non-combine player. And I think it's someone that really put himself in the draftable range for teams with what he did at the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl and then what he did at the Senior Bowl. It was really an impressive player during those practices where blockers had a tough time, keeping him contained. He has really good movement skills for that size. He's 6'4", 300 pounds. You see the grip strength with his hands. He stays square with his engagement. And there's a plan to what he's doing. He's not just out there, throwing whatever he can at blockers. There's a thought process to every single move that he's making so he can win gaps. And he's a guy that's still growing, still learning. And I think there's upside there as well. So 6'4", 300 pounds, over 34-inch arms, ran a 4.86 at his pro day, tested really well. The type of numbers that I know this Jets front office is taking note of. So I would not be surprised if the Jets are one of those teams in the 4th, 5th round that look at Eric Johnson and say, okay, this guy can really help us on the defensive line, be a depth piece, but that also has a little bit upside where maybe down the road he could compete for a starting job.
Also, something to note, the Jets did also draft a defensive tackle last year, only played a couple games. Jonathan Marshall out of Arkansas was the Jets' final pick in 2021. And you know that Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas always want to add to the trenches. So I totally understand what you're saying. I think it's a good pick, and I think they're all good picks for the record. So this is how we're going to wrap up this mock draft, going back to the offense, playmakers and production, accelerate the growth of Zach Wilson, accelerate this offense a little bit. Let's go to Missouri. We were just in Missouri State. Let's stay there. Tyler Beatty, all right, 5'8", 197 in your draft guide. What do you like about the fit between Tyler Beatty and what the New York Jets want to run?
I mean, he just gives them a lot of options. He's so good catching the ball out of the backfield. He's a guy you want to get in space because he's not the biggest, as you said. He's under 200 pounds, so he's not the biggest. But he can make guys miss. He's really, really good in the screen game where he's going to create when he has the ball in his hands. So, a guy that rushed for over 1,600 yards last year in the SEC. That's not easy to do. So with Tyler Beatty, you see the balance, you see field vision, the pass catching traits. So I think he could be the type of running back you're looking for to, kind of round out that running back room, give you a little bit of versatility with what he brings on when he's on the football field, and be just a nice compliment to, Carter and the rest of the guys in that backfield.
I just wanted to bring this up real quick. Last year, so obviously the Jets and 49ers parallels. A lot of people look at the 49ers, what they do, what the Jets do because of their coaching staff with Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur. So Elijah Mitchell last year, 6th-round pick. His height and weight, 5'10", 200 pounds. Right now you have Beatty in the 5th round to the Jets, 5'8", 197. So I just want to draw the comparison here, maybe not as players, but that both teams enjoy day 3 running backs like Michael Carter for the Jets last year. The Jets drafted LaMichael Pirine in round 4. Ty Johnson wasn't drafted by the Jets, but he was a 6th-round pick of the Detroit Lions. So what is it about the day 3 running back pick that you think is a popular one for a scheme that the Jets have? And what do you think about the Beatty-Mitchell comparison, if there is one at all?
Yeah, no, I think you could draw some similarities there. And I think it really comes down to understanding that the position is very, very deep, more years than not, this year especially. And running backs, we'll see a few come off the board, in the first 3 rounds, Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker and maybe a few others. But if you wait till day 3, you're going to find some gems at the running back position. We saw it last year. We saw it the year before. We'll see it again this year. And it's all about opportunity. You give a guy like Tyler Beatty an opportunity, he's going to be able to take the ball and run with it, figuratively and literally. So, I mean, it's something also that, we could draw connections with the Senior Bowl. Kirby Joseph, coached by the Jets in the Senior Bowl, with Tyler Beatty, coached by the Jets in the Senior Bowl. Charlie Kohler, coached by the Jets in the Senior Bowl. So these guys have this team has a little more knowledge about these players than maybe some other teams do, just because of that opportunity to coach down at Mobile.
All right, before I ask you some rapid fire questions about the draft overall, is there a pick in this mock draft that you like? Just it's your favorite pick for the Jets, or you feel more confident about this pick compared to the other picks for any reason that you choose?
It'd probably be at 10 to Jermaine Johnson. I think that they really like Jermaine Johnson, and it would not shock me at all if they went that route at number 4, just because they were afraid to lose him at number 10. But if they're able to get him at number 10, I think that might be the ideal scenario, regardless of, if they go, whoever they go at number 4. If you're able to get Jermaine Johnson, a defensive end who is very stout versus the run, give you some disruptive qualities, rushing off the edge, I think that's exactly what they're looking for, and the type of guy that I know this coaching staff wants to coach. So I think Jermaine Johnson at number 10, definitely my favorite in terms of what I think the Jets would love to see happen on draft day.
That is a wrap on a mock draft. That's a beautiful mock draft. I think Jets fans would be very excited about what you laid out for them. So now we're going to hit you with some general draft questions, and it could be rapid fire if you want. You could be a short, you got to preserve the voice. We talked about it. So your answers could be just a single name. You could put whatever reasoning you want behind it if you choose. Totally up to you. So let's start with this. Where does the 2022 NFL draft start in your eyes?
At 1. I mean, it's kind of crazy. We're 48 hours from the draft, less than, and we don't have a great feel for what the Jaguars are going to do. And even if you believe that whoever goes 1 will go 2, or whoever won't go 1 will go 2, so maybe we know the first 2 picks, okay, then 3. If Houston's a team that is rebuilding from the ground up. Literally, I think besides quarterback, any positions on the board for them. I think they, I don't think they're going to go quarterback, but you never know. It's a corner with Lovie Smith's scheme, and that's possible there. Somewhere in the trenches where they want to go defensive end, want to go offensive line. So, the pick right in front of the Jets there at 4 with the Texans, that's a big kind of pivot point of the first round, especially the top 10.
How about a guy who will be drafted earlier than most people expect?
That's a good question. I think that maybe Trevor Penning. I think these offensive tackles are going to go quickly. If let's just say we see an offensive tackle go 3 to the Texans, 4 possibly the Jets. We could see one go 5 to the Giants. And in that scenario, the Panthers, we know, would love to draft a left tackle. Do they take a pass rusher there at 5 or at 6, or would they take Trevor Penning? So I think Trevor Penning is going to go a lot earlier than I think a lot of the mock drafts have him as a guy that's not going to be off the board until 17 or whatever. A good chance Trevor Penning's off the board. The top 10 is possible. I don't think he gets past Baltimore at 14.
I love it. Wow, Trevor Penning to the Ravens. I think that tracks. Anyway, yeah. How about a guy, same question but reverse. Who's the guy that you think will be drafted maybe a little later than most people expect?
I think that's and part of it's injury, but Andrew Booth from Clemson, there's a chance just because we haven't seen him. Corner's a stopwatch position. Haven't seen him work out because of the injuries. That could knock him out of the first round. And then Tyler Linderbaum. We've talked about him quite a bit throughout the year as being this really awesome center prospect. But at the same time, he's a center only. He's scheme specific, and a lot of teams are just going to be out because of that lack of length that he has. So I would not be surprised at all if Tyler Linderbaum falls out of the first round and into day 2, and then you have to wonder, okay, with Jets having 2 picks early in the second round, could they be in the mix there for Tyler Linderbaum if he would fall that far? So at this point, it seems like Tyler Linderbaum has a real chance to fall. And on defense, George Karlaftis is interesting because there's a lot of teams that believe he's a second round pick. And obviously all it takes is one team to say, okay, he's worth a first round pick. But, obviously we're going to see plenty of second round grades go in the first round. There's not 32 players graded as first round players in this draft or most drafts. So Karlaftis still has a very good chance to go in the first round. He plays the right position. He's a good player. But I think it's also a realistic scenario where he falls to the second round as well.
George Karlaftis, feel like not a lot of people are talking about him right now. Definitely happy you brought him up. The first wide receiver off the board is whom?
That's a good question. I think it'll be one of those 3 guys in that top tier: Wilson, Drake London, Jameson Williams, and it could be as early as 8 to Atlanta. Right now, I'll guess that's Jameson Williams coming off the ACL. I think that he's the speed is special, and that's what teams are looking for. And for a team like Atlanta that's rebuilding, and they don't need a guy that's going to step in from day 1 and be the guy, they can afford to wait a little bit on a Jameson Williams, and they're going to take their top-ranked receiver. So right now, I'll guess Jameson Williams.
And first quarterback off the board, and over pick 10.5.
I'll definitely take the over on that. And I'll guess it's Kenny Pickett to the Steelers at 20. I don't have a great feel for it. Nobody that I've talked to in the NFL has a great feel for where these quarterbacks are going to land. How early do we see a run? Let me throw one at you. Over under 2.5 quarterbacks in the first round.
That is a great question. Whether I feel like it, you said over under 2.5.
Yep, in the top 32 picks, which is tough because, could we see maybe a few teams in the second round trade into the first just to get, right, get one of these guys? Maybe, I don't know. I mean, what would your guess be?
I think my gut says no.
Under?
Because, yeah, under.
Yep.
Yeah, no. Yeah, my gut would say under. assuming that there's no like Carolina pick 6 and they draft a quarterback and that drives up, somebody wanting to get somebody, whether it's, let's say Carolina takes Willis or Pickett, somebody else takes the other one. And then another team's like, I don't want to wait till day 2 to get Desmond Ridder if that's the guy, and they want to make sure they get their guy or Corral or whomever. I see that. I want to say under, though, because if you're saying that first pick is pick 20, to me that only leaves that 12 teams, and a lot of those teams are playoff contenders that have a quarterback. Now, the one wild card to me is Detroit at pick 32, and what if 2 guys have already been selected? That I could see that being 3, but right now I feel like my gut says under, even though there is a quarterback capital that maybe drives everything up. So that's how I see it. I could be as right or as wrong as anybody else, but my gut says no, just based on what you and the other evaluators think of the quarterbacks as a whole.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. I think it's under. I think we see 2 quarterbacks go in the first round. Maybe we see someone else sneak in there. But right now, I will guess the under.
This feels like, it could be a Lamar Jackson situation in 2018, like at the 11th hour, the Ravens coming in pick 32, and that's the Lions. And I could see the Lions selecting a quarterback there if they wanted to, but also if they wanted Pickett or Willis and they coached Willis, then, that's your guy. Maybe you don't wait till 32 and you want to move up.
Right.
It's going to be fascinating to see what actually ends up happening, not only a quarterback, but the entire draft. My question to you is, who's the freakiest athlete in this entire draft class? I think I know who you're going to say, and I think it's your guy, but I just want to hear it.
I got to go Travon Walker, and I'm guessing that's who you thought I was going to say. But Travon Walker, guys that are 6'5", 272 pounds, and run a 4.51. And it's not just the 4.51. It's the 1.54 10-yard. That's really, really impressive. That's top 5 in this class among edge rushers. So, it's for a guy that big to run that quick right out of the gate. So impressive. And he's not just a linear athlete. 6'8", 9'3" cone. That change of direction is remarkable. The length, 35.5-inch arms. You can understand why Travon Walker is being talked about as a potential number 1 overall pick when you look at the traits and think about what he can grow into. Is he a risky pick? Sure. There's still some upside there that is unrealized. There's a projection involved with Travon Walker. But if you're going to take a swing on a guy that has ability, why not take a swing on a guy that's got the best natural ability, the best raw ability in the draft, and that's Travon Walker.
Yeah, that is exactly who I thought you were going to say. And that is, that's standing on your I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. It's escaped me, but standing on your beliefs. Let's go with that. That's an easier way to say whatever I was thinking about it. So anyway, you're sticking to your guns. Maybe that's what I was looking for. You're sticking to the guns at the 11th hour. I love it. One last question for you. It's a fun one. Your favorite name in the 2002 NFL draft is what?
There's a lot of good ones. I think I'm going to go with Bear Hunter, a center from App State. Of course, he's a center from App State, right? So Bear Hunter. I think that's my answer. He's my let me see. I think he was my 36th ranked center in the draft. That would be my answer. A lot of good ones though this year for sure.
Bear Hunter. First of all, is it criminal or is it a good thing that it's B-A-E-R, not B-E-A-R?
Right, exactly. So it just got to put his own spin on it, which is kind of fun.
I would love to see Bear Hunter and Smoke Monday in the Oklahoma drill. What do you think about that?
That's it. A lot of Smoke Monday. I think that's the favorite. That's the I think the easy answer. Which is just obviously an amazing name. But I gotta go with Bear Hunter. It's but there's a lot of names in this draft that are really interesting, and we should almost create like a bracket and have people vote on it just to see who meets in the final 4 and who meets for the title. So this draft's got some really good ones.
Yeah, Bear Hunter might be the champion, but I would also like to see a a bracket. You know, now that I'm looking at where Bear Hunter is ranked in your draft guide, a couple names earlier. I don't even know how to say this guy's name, but I'm going to give it a go. It's a lot of vowels. You ready?
Yep.
Noose Keo Bounham.
Yeah, that was
Oregon
pretty
State.
Close. Yeah, pretty
Okay.
close. Yeah, I mean,
What is it?
Was it better? Not better than I would have done, or it probably was. No, I mean, sorry, it was probably better than I would have done. So, yeah, I think that's pretty spot on.
Okay, all right. Well, Bear Hunter it is, and that's how we wrap up the pre-draft final episode of NFL Draft Preview. Remember, we're going to have a review after the draft. Dane, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, thanks, Ethan.